Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sit Around the Fire. I'm glad that you're here with us today, and I'm very excited to bring you this conversation with Jess Flores. She is coming to us from Kansas City, which is super cool and very close to my heart. So welcome to the show, Jess.
Thank you, Ashley, so much for having me.
Well, I know we had a lot of good conversation even leading into the conversation, but
It always happens.
It always does. I'm like, we should just hit record right away because we start missing out on stuff. But tell me, first and foremost, to the people or the person listening today, what is your biggest message that you want them to hear, that you want to bring across throughout our conversation today?
Yeah, for sure. So it's almost two-parted, is that you are not alone and you are not stuck. Okay, three parts. And you are not, quote, just a cop. That's really like a tagline almost to say all three of those things for me, because I know that the people need to hear it. It's exactly what I needed to hear when I lost my career. And it would have definitely helped having other people having gone through it, like knowing that there was hope out there, including my hope dealer is what I call all of my podcast guests, because it's people willing to finally share that there is hope and that there is life after law enforcement.
Yeah, awesome. Like, I'm so excited. I think you are, probably the first female law enforcement person I've had on the podcast. So you're like a rare unicorn.
I'll take that. I will say, just to your guests, so you know, guys, I've been out for 9 years now. So that is why I have such a different perspective on one, my time in law enforcement, and the way I see things now. I've had 9 years, 2 years of suffering, and 7 or almost 8 years of growing through the struggle of losing my career. So my perspectives may seem a little like that I could never do that, but I'm proof that you can do that. And it does take hard work.
Absolutely. Well, and I want to dive into all of those things for sure, because I think this is a huge conversation, and a lot of what I like to talk about too is this identity piece, and how once that, because literally for those of us who are first responders or who've been first responders, we don't always realize the gravity that the career can be taken away in a second, or you may need to walk away from the career. And so having that shift, it is truly life changing, I think. And so I'm right there with you, having walked through it too. So this is going to be a powerful conversation to bring to the people.
For
So,
sure. I think they need to hear it for sure.
well, give us a glimpse, a little bit into the story about who you are, and then we can tie into what the work is that you're doing now. But give us a picture of who we're chatting with today.
Yeah, for sure. So Jess Flores, I am 40, almost 41 years old, from Kansas City, Missouri. Like she said, go Chiefs, not this year, but go Chiefs otherwise. I am married to the love of my life. He is actually an officer currently. We have a cat named Maverick. We are fur parents by choice. I was in law enforcement, it's sad to say, for only 10 years before an injury took me out. I was only 31 years old when that happened. So that was like a, oh shit moment. What do I do with the rest of my life? Because I have to do something. I have to figure this out. And like you kind of touched on, the identity piece was the hard piece. Even though I thought I had done everything correctly to ensure I was not, quote unquote, just a cop at my second department, the minute it was ripped away from me, it's all I could see myself as was, oh my gosh, I'm just a cop. I've only ever been just a cop. There's nothing else I can do. There's nothing else I want to do. And that was a really hard thing to go through. I sat in that for about 2.5 years of just miserable pity party, poor woe is me, expecting someone to come save me or someone to hand me something. I was very entitled. I was a cop, so I should get X, Y, or Z. That's just not how it works. And then because of an online fitness journey, my life changed. Almost 8 years ago, February will be 8 years. And that set the trajectory of there is no glass ceiling in this life. You can have absolutely anything you want, but you better freaking fight for it, work for it, and show up for it. I don't have to work for somebody else. I don't have to do what society tells me is normal or okay or good. I get to choose what that is. And that has led to multiple different opportunities online, doing like direct sales or partnerships within the law enforcement space, or creating my own business, Next Shift, and my own podcast, where I now get to serve those I once served alongside with all the lessons of these past almost 9 years. Some learned the very hard way, some learned a little bit easier, but sharing it forward so that people know you're not alone.
Yeah. How cool. What an awesome story
It's been a
already.
journey.
So yeah, oh god. It is a journey. It really is a journey. So let's just dive into the nitty-gritty of this. So when you were forced to walk away, not by choice, but you had to make the big shift. Like, let's walk through this identity piece and how this impacted you because I know for it's taken me a while, even after being offline now, but I would always introduce myself as I'm Ashley, a firefighter paramedic. It's like I really held on to that identity.
Yeah.
And what tell us a little bit about like how this started to kind of fall apart from you and then what did that look like for you?
So, like I said, I thought I had done all the things right. So, I had been at one department for about 4.5 years. And I mean, when I say I lost my identity in the job, I lost my identity. I started at 21. I was on midnights. I was in the worst part of the city. I just fell into this is how you do the things. And I lived with the cop. I was dating that cop. We hung out with our sector mates when we were off duty. Like everything was police related. There was no break, no escape from it. And that was detrimental. That became to be too much. And there you can hear my whole story on different podcasts, whether it's my own or whatever. There's no need to go into all the things. But the reason I chose to leave that department was understanding now that my department wouldn't even have my back if I got into critical incidents. And I was like, well, I expected the community not to have it. I did not expect my department to turn their back. So I chose to leave that department. And that wasn't hard. That was an easy decision, in my opinion. Like I finally got to the point of saying, okay, yeah, no, this isn't okay with me. I'm going to go do this somewhere else. So I left there and I didn't have any issues with the identity. I was like, oh, okay, like whatever, we're moving on. I'll go save the world in a different way. Tried another career path and was like, no, I was called to be a cop. So we're going to go back. We're going to finish the business we came here to do, which was becoming a detective. I only became a cop to be a voice for the victims who couldn't or wouldn't speak for themselves. From a very young age, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I didn't get to achieve that at my first department. Took that yearish break or so, went to my second department. No friends at the department. I was like, I will be here for you here. I am not for you out there. Like, I am having a completely separate life. And it worked so well, I thought. And then again, when my career was taken, I was like, "Oh crap, that is really all I was," as far as, like, work went, but when you do a job like this and it's so service oriented, you just get wrapped up in it, and if I can't serve people, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I got real angry at God. I was like, "How dare you give me this calling and then you take it away from me? How dare you give me this purpose that is so mission focused and service oriented and now you take it from me?" He knew what he was doing. We'll just say that. And it's eventually full circle moment, come back to that, but I was thankful in that moment that I had friends that weren't cops who could talk some sense into me. I have my now husband who again was a cop then, but we aren't those live the thin blue line life. We don't have blue line stickers or bumper stuff or like license plates. We don't wear it. I wear it now cuz I designed it, but we don't have it all around our house. Nobody would know if we're out in public that that's who we are because it's not who we are. We are people who happen to do this job. So the identity piece, I wouldn't say was hard that way. It was more so like, what the heck do I do now if this is all I was? So career related, that's where I lost that identity piece. I knew I was somebody else, but I didn't know how to package that person up and be like, here's how I can now go forward and serve anybody. It's what I knew I was supposed to do. It's why I'm on this earth, but I had no clue what that looked like. And again, that fitness journey taught me, oh, I can still serve people just in a different way. I can serve this online community of women who are lost, who have no idea where to get started, who just want some community or need community, who want to feel better about themselves. And I can lead you along these workouts just like I did. I had somebody do that for me. Now I'm going to give that forward to you. I ran accountability groups to give those women that small safe space that they could just be themselves online. And it was the biggest blessing. I had no idea how big of a blessing it was going to be, but the biggest blessing ever.
Oh, that's so cool. Let's I wanna come back to that in just a minute, but I wanna circle back to what you talked about in your first apartment with like, everything centered around the department and being a cop, and this is something that I actually see a lot, and especially, like, with law enforcement. I think it happens with fire and EMS too, and military, but it particularly with cops, and I'm not sure, it's just a different group, I've learned.
Well, for
So
sure.
oh, for sure, yes. But it's everything centers around it, like you said, of your usually whoever your spouse is or who you're dating, your friends, what you do, it's all centered around that, and to be, like, very blunt and honest, all I've seen this do for people is create nothing but suffering and chaos.
It destroys us. It absolutely destroys us, our relationships, our careers, honestly. And a couple of things I've learned about this the last 3 years of working with cops, because now I can see it a little fresher because I'm no longer in it. Again, I started at 21, and I'm seeing those who start at 21 have a real struggle with this because it's sold to us in the academy for 6, 7 months, however long it is. This is your family. This is who you bleed for. This is like that is the mindset. And I am very, very thankful that that was given to me then because it kept me alive on the street. 100% hands down. But looking back, hindsight 2020, I don't even know the 21-year-old should be allowed to be a cop. That is a lot of responsibility when you have absolutely no life experience. Now, some people do have life experience. Maybe they were military and they've gone overseas and they've seen things nobody wants to see. They've done things nobody wants to do. They grew up in a way that they do have some life experience. Okay, but maybe we pay attention to those who join at 25 or later who have had some kind of career already. So they know they're not just a cop. They already maybe have a family or a significant other that can help ground them. They already have a friend group outside that can help ground them. That has been the people I've seen who, 1, had a better career, and 2, had an easier transition out because they stayed true to who they were. They already had all those connections outside. For me, I didn't go away to college. I traveled to and from my commuted college, but it was criminal justice, and I didn't spend time hanging out at college. I did what I was supposed to do. I went home or I worked or I did whatever, and then when I became a cop, again, they beat it into you that this is your family. And I didn't have, a family of my own. So yeah, sure. I leaned into that. And it was detrimental. I mean, it all worked out the way it was supposed to, but it was detrimental looking back to how things could have been.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I see it a lot, and I saw it with myself too, of, like, because it's the same thing on the fire side really is, like, this is your family, and my shifts were 48 hours on, so you're spending 48 hours straight with people. That's a lot of time and a lot of holidays and all the kinds of things,
Right.
and it becomes this perception of a family or thinking, like, that you belong, but there was always this underlying current of feeling like, well, you have to make sure you're performing at a high level to be a part of this family. You need to make sure that you like everything else that everybody likes. Like all these things needed to be in place in order to feel accepted essentially within the environment. And think that's also what leads to this lack of identity for people is like you don't even know really who you are anymore or what you really like because you've just been going with the herd for so long.
As long as
And
you're
it
not yourself,
is
as long as you do what they want you to do, as long as you don't prioritize yourself, you are one of the quote unquote good guys.
yeah, it's bizarre and it is like you said a few times detrimental. Like it really does cuz it doesn't set people up for having any kind of healthy boundaries with work or identities with that. What do you think, like, based on what you know and what you see in the work with you what that you do, like, I notice a lot of struggle within relationships and a lot of struggle, especially, like, you, again, have a unique scenario where you both were first responders, law enforcement. But, like, what are some of the things that you're noticing or that you picked up in your own relationship of struggles of trying to do this job, trying to be this person, but then also, like, having a healthy relationship on the other side.
Yeah. So relationships are not my specialty by any means, but a few of the things I've learned are communication 100% matters. You can't just sit here and say they don't get it or they don't understand. If you think that, then make sure they understand. Have a conversation with the other person and make sure they understand what you're thinking, what you're feeling, where you're coming from, and why you feel that way. And then if it is a situation that's creating problems, talk about that because maybe it's just your perception or it's just you're thinking this and it's not at all what is true over here. So communication is absolutely number one key. I do think I'm very fortunate that I have somebody who understands, especially as the female in the relationship. If you try to make a relationship with somebody not in it, I see those people struggle just as much because we are often very type A, very regimented, very like, we're the boss. And that doesn't always work, right, in a relationship. And I will say that over the past 9 years, I've gotten to really enjoy that I don't always have to be that person. I can be that person when I need to be that person, but I am more so a very type B person, go with the flow, like, okay, sure, be the protector, but I also know I can kick ass too if I need to. Like, that
Mhm.
is something I really, really enjoy getting to lean into. um Spouses that aren't in the job trying to, and whether it's telling their person this or they're just online saying it so that they feel like they feel seen and heard by somebody, trying to make a first responder feel bad for going to work or having to work a holiday is not going to do anybody any good. It is part of the job. It is what we signed up for. As you move through the ranks or as you have time, you can take the time off, but I will guarantee you that a lot of them see the dollar signs on holidays and are like, "Hey, our family actually really needs this extra money. So if I can get paid time and a half or double time, I'm going to do that because there's a scale here or a balance where it's like we got to afford to live. We got to afford to have a family meal." And I grew up in a first responder family. My grandpa was a cop and my uncle was like a firefighter. So we never had holidays on holidays. It was not weird for us because it was just our normal. And I think that's something that so many, we don't have kids, but so many families need to just come to terms with. It's okay if your holiday does not look like somebody else's. Stop, get off the internet that day. If you don't want to see everybody and their family hanging out together, then don't get on the internet. Create whatever memories you can on that day. But if you have to celebrate Christmas the day after Christmas, nobody knows. No, nobody knows. Don't make it weird or it's gonna be weird. Don't try to make that person feel bad because maybe they do feel really bad that they can't be there and they're low man on the totem pole and they're stuck working. And not every sergeant's gonna be like, "Hey man, I know you got young kids. Why don't you come in late tomorrow or today?" Like, not everybody has that, right? Some people do. But communicating from both sides, not letting it boil to a point where it's like now we're just pissed and we're yelling and screaming and we're like butting heads. No, communicate it. And the excuse has to go out the window of they don't get it or they don't understand. There are things that some people that haven't done the job will never understand, but you can make them understand it in a way that isn't trauma dumping on them or isn't spilling too much. It's a respectful way to communicate what you've been through. I would say that's the biggest thing I've seen.
Mhm. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying around these, like, unspoken expectations
Yeah. Or
of
unrealistic at that point. Like we have a lot of unrealistic expectations for
oh,
sure.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and then that yeah, that exists outside of even the holidays or whatever. It's like expectations just in relationships, and that is definitely one area I see a lot of struggle with people is the spouse has an idea of this is how it's supposed to be. First responder has an idea of this is how it's gonna go, and really not being able to reconcile the differences between, and it just causing a lot of problems
And
in
it's
the middle.
the transition as well. Like that affects everybody. It's not just the cop. And again, we can be very selfish sometimes and think this is just affecting me. No, it definitely affects every single other person in your family when you're all of a sudden around all the freaking time and you're having
Yeah.
to integrate back into a routine that was already set in place for a specific way. And now you've got to get used to it. And my friend, Dr. Medina Baumgart, she has a book about this because of her lived experience. She's a police psychologist and has a now retired police husband, but they learned some lessons the hard way about retirement and the transition and integrating back into being a family, and what the transition can do if somebody's whole identity has been being a cop. And now you don't have that. You wake up one day and you're like, all right, I don't know who I am. And I am so thankful my husband is stuck with me as I've peeled these onion layers and tried to figure out who the hell I am without that job or that career. I'm very, very thankful. Not everybody has that
Yeah.
patience.
No. I call it the great dismantling. That's what it's been for myself of, like, ripping apart all these identities I thought I had about myself and, like, recognizing the truth about who I really am and all the things
Yeah.
that go along with that.
And to make it a
What
little more
was
normal for people, like, I up until last year, so 8 years out, I still tried to tie something depending on who I was talking to, like, "I'm Jess, and I used to be a cop," or depending on who I was talking to, and did I need the credibility or did I not? But just last year was the time where I was sitting in the gym during a workout, and I was like, "I am just Jess." And I'm okay with that. Like, I can literally introduce myself to anybody and be like, "Hey, I'm Jess, da 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 da," and just start a conversation. I don't need to explain who I am or what I do or what I did. I just get to be Jess. And it was the most freeing thing ever, but that took 8 years, 8 very long years to finally get to that point.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I like that, just period,
Yeah,
like, nothing else
period.
after that. That's so good. What was your out of curiosity, what was your experience of, like, when you left, when you were done? And we talked a little bit about this whole, like, this is your family, this is what you do, but what did this look like for you actually when you were gone, when you were not there anymore? How did your connection stay in place, if it stayed in place at all? Or what have you seen around the struggle around when you're not there anymore,
Yeah.
what happens?
So I think my friend, Dr. Baumgart's husband said it best in her book and even on my podcast was, "I gave you my life and you handed me a receipt." And that is so true for so many people who, whether they get to retire, they choose to retire, they're forced to retire, a medical retirement, or they just have to leave, or they're choosing to leave. So many of us feel like we gave everything. And then just one day, who cares that you were here and nobody's even going to recognize you? Like, I remember I had been off from February to November with a surgery for my wrist. Um, and I was the one doing the check-in that entire time with the people at the PD. I wasn't being checked in on for 8 months. Like, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Hey, we miss you here. Like, and I was a sergeant. It wasn't like I was just an officer. I was a sergeant at the time. But I would check in and be like, "Hey, this is where we're at. Hey, this is what they're thinking. Hey, this is what second opinion said. Hey, yeah, it has to be over. Like, there's no chance I can come back, because I can't hold a gun in my hand, and that would be a problem. So I had to make the decision that didn't feel like a decision. It felt like my body had made it for me. But yeah, so after 8 months, I go in and here's my stuff and see you later. That's what that was. And I was like, oh, wow. And so the work that I get to do now, and every month I host I call it a debrief because I do believe unpacking that backpack of all the things that are going on throughout your career is far better than waiting till the end of your career and being like, "Oh, wow, this is really heavy, and I have nobody truly nobody that gets it anymore." I was at least around my people when I could have been offloading some of this. So I host that call, and it's so great to have people start unpacking that, but so many of them unfortunately had this exact same experience. Some have a great experience. Some are like, "Here's a whole huge celebration. Here's this, here's a gift, here's cake, here's." Most people do not, and unfortunately, a lot of them are leaving at a time where they are just so beyond burnt that they just don't even care, and then they end up regretting how they went out, and that makes it an even harder transition.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I've heard from lots of different people too. Um, Even like the guys that retire after 30 years, 25, 30 years, as I heard on another episode on my show, they spoke about how the disconnection from the spouse side was so severe and felt so like really sad. You could see it evoked a lot of emotion in them because they said this was our family for 30 years and everything, they did all this stuff around the department. And then as soon as they retired, like the communication dwindles off,
Oh,
the
yes.
invites dwindle off. And that has been something for me too to process and really like really dig down deep in myself to say like where does the dismantling need to happen around this, but this attachment to the relationships that are no longer there anymore. And that it's its own season of grief and loss, I think, of going through that and grieving those relationships that are not there along with the job.
For sure. And I definitely think there's a self awareness piece there because I've heard a ton of people say that as well. A lot of people will play the victim though. Well, the call stopped, or well, nobody reached out, or Are you reaching out? Because you do have that option. You have the ability to call those same exact people that you're wishing were calling you, and you're not doing it. So, some self awareness and some responsibility and accepting responsibility for what's going on and what isn't. I get it. The phone call stopped, but we can't take it personal. Every single person has a life. Every single person is still there doing that damn job and just trying to stay alive on the street. And they're trying to sleep when they can. And if they've got a family, they're trying to deal with family. People are busy. Life is busy. If you want to hear from somebody, reach out to them. We can play victim all day long. And there are so many of us who did or are playing it for far too long. Look at that. Get curious about this. Why does this hurt so bad that nobody's reaching out? Get curious about that. Journal about that. Talk to somebody about that. Because maybe it comes out that you just need to hear, like, hey, why don't you reach out to Ashley? If she
Mhm.
means that much, then reach out. If you're struggling, reach out. Nobody's a mind reader. And we're also trained to say that I'm okay or I'm fine. Literally, I'm fine. I'm good. Nobody knows any different. We have to take responsibility for the things that we want out of this life.
Yeah, I like that you bring it up in that way because I think I see it a lot from my seat where I am now, like, in the role of the helper now, the mental health different kinda helper than I used to be, I call it. But I see this a lot of, like, there isn't that value and that accountability in yourself of thinking, well, either things aren't bad enough or um, like, it's too I mean, I've heard every excuses in the book. "I don't have time, it's too expensive," like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I get over the excuse world, and it's just like, just take accountability and realize, like, you've got to take care of yourself, and if you don't, like, it you're going to reap the benefits of that on the other side.
100%. Like nobody is coming to save you. And like when I was sharing just a little bit about I had to come to that realization. And that wasn't anybody telling me, hey, you need to realize this finally. It was finally like, I am so sick and tired of being here, watching life pass me by and all of these other people get what they want. I guess nothing's going to be handed to me. And I better do the damn work that they're doing if I want to get what they're getting. All of a sudden, I did the damn work and I got the thing that they were getting. So, I've documented every single moment of it on my personal Instagram. People can scroll back to February 20th of 18 and literally watch basically every single day of my life play out moment by moment and see all the shifts and pivots and twists and turns and identities and like shedding of layers and finally stop hiding behind other people's words and filters and just be Jess. Just show up and say what
Mhm,
you have to say. What have you learned in this life? That is what I'm here to do is share lessons backwards so people are not struggling the way I did.
mhm. Yeah, I love that, and I just, like, really value the work that you're doing and using your own story, which is, I think, really the biggest teacher for everybody, is using your story to help other people because you can have a healthy life doing this career. Like, I
You can.
believe you absolutely can, but you have to be very proactive instead of reactive in what's going on.
Which is not normal for cops because we're in a very reactive profession. Some of us, sure, we loved proactive work and we got really annoyed when we had to be that reactive person. But I mean, even our personalities. I've talked a lot lately about responding versus reacting because a lot of times we react and we ruin a whole lot of relationships by doing that versus responding. Take that moment and pause and think about this for a second before you say something you cannot unsay, which often does more damage than any physical injury is ever going to do to somebody. But it was a lesson that I did not see as clearly until way later that I do try to impart now. And I talk to cops all the time and I'm like, guys, we know better than anybody that life can change in a freaking instant. And so that means us as well. We are just like the community we serve. We are human beings. We could fall off a curb tomorrow and break our leg in five different spots, and now we don't have a career. What are you going to do today to ensure that if that were to happen, you're prepared, that you're not going to have the extra stress of who am I? What could I do? No, I want to get you to being a whole person right now on the job so you can have that healthier life. You can have those healthy relationships. You can have that financial health and all the things that you need. That if your career were gone tomorrow, you know without a doubt you are going to be okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and the empowerment around being able to walk away too.
Yes, if
Like,
you're not in control
yeah.
of this decision, it hurts. It hurts
Oh,
far worse if
absolutely.
you don't get to choose when and how your career ends.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, what do you say to the person, let's say that's just which is funny you mentioned 21, and I know here in Colorado, at least on the fire side, they've dropped the age now to 18, because, like, I don't think necessarily a lot of people are lined up to do the job like it used to be.
Right.
But what do you say to the person who's just starting out brand new in this field and taking this on? Like, what is some of your biggest pieces of advice to speak to them?
Yeah. Number one, you are more than just a cop. This is a job that you do. It is a very serious job. It is a calling for most of us, not everyone. There are people in this job who just want to drive fast and shoot people. You shouldn't be here. I, to be blunt, you should not be here. But for those who are called to serve their community in one way or another, and this is what you're going to do, it is on you to maintain balance. And last year, I kind of had this realization when I was out for a walk that you know what? We can all keep being pissed off at our departments or these departments for not taking care of our people. No, it's our job to take care of us. Our department owes us a paycheck for the time that we come there and we work. That is all they owe us. These departments are technically going above and beyond to offer you all of these extra mental health or these wellness days, or they don't have to do any of that. If they want to keep people, they have to do these things. And I think they're starting to feel that. And we have a long way to go before leadership around the country really grasps how darn important it is, because right now there's still a level of supervisors, I'll say, not leadership, up there who don't believe in the wellness aspect. This is how I did it and this is how it's always been done, and well, I didn't have that. That's the wrong mindset. You have to meet your people where they're at. And unfortunately, I don't even say unfortunately, I kind of like that these kids now are like demanding mental health um resources and things like that. Wasn't my generation. We were like, suck it up, buttercup, move on, move through it. But again, that was very detrimental looking backwards. Kept me alive. Glad I had it. Glad that's how I was brought up in the profession. But looking back, I can now see how if we had told every single person, hey, make sure you take care of you. Hey, make sure that your family is number one. Hey, make sure that you keep on top of health, mental health. I think it's all related personally, that you have options for these different things, that you keep balance outside of this department, that you don't only have friends that are cops. That is the most important piece. And I think we're getting closer and closer to having discussions like this in academy classes. I'm glad the internet is out here, as detrimental as it can be. It can also be a blessing. And there are people who are out here and they will find information on every topic whatsoever. All you have to do is Google it or get on Instagram and search it, LinkedIn and search it, and you're going to find somebody talking about what you need to know in this career before you let it get too far gone. And that's another thing that so many people will be like, I'm too broken, I'm too far gone, it's too late for me. No, it's not. Every single day is a choice. And you can choose today to say, you know what? I'm kind of tired of being this miserable asshole who's so jaded and can't see any good in the world that I'm going to change that. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be perfect. You are not going to go from that to positive Patty overnight. You're just not. But you can choose to every single day show up in a different way, in a better way. You can choose to be like, really don't like how I reacted to that. I could have responded a little better. Self awareness is absolutely the key, and you must maintain it throughout your career. The minute you lose it, it's like it's bad. You've gotta
Mm. Yeah, I always refer to it with the question of, "Are you sick enough of your suffering?"
yeah,
Because really being an asshole, all that does is causing you more pain and suffering.
yeah. And I even, the suffering is a word that we like to use a lot too, but, I kinda broke this down a couple of months ago. Just because somebody or you are struggling doesn't mean you're suffering. Struggle is part of life. We have to go through the struggle in order to find our strength. And that sounds very cliche, but it's so gosh darn true. Anybody that has struggled through anything and made it out the other side is now a stronger person. There are numerous examples of that. But just because you're struggling does not mean you're suffering. You may be suffering, and that's because you're refusing to let yourself not struggle. You're refusing not to take the plethora of help that is now out here in this first responder space. There is somebody for everybody out here. and you're choosing not to do it. You're choosing to be stubborn and hard-headed and be like, "Well, I don't wanna be seen as weak." Screw what other people think. Screw it. They're not the one taking care of you. They're not the one responsible for taking care of your family. They're not the one paying your bills. You have to take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting, like, being that the statistics from 2025 just came out, and actually I saw one the other day on, law enforcement specifically, but it talked about how the number 1 cause of death of law enforcement was suicide last year. Like, above anything by, like, we're talking tenfolds, like, not even close to anything
And those
else.
numbers are obviously underreported as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, but that's when I say, like, time is of the essence and we talk about, like, you have to like, this is a non-negotiable. It's like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make these choices for you because, like, I'm personally tired of seeing those statistics because 'cause I'm like, this is insane." Like, it's actually insane. But it just proves the point of, like, people are not doing that, and it just starts with a willingness to just try something, and you will find the right person, but you won't if you don't try.
Yep. And I had no idea how bad mental health was in law enforcement because when I was in, we did not talk about it. You were not
Mhm,
allowed to talk about it. And then, I mean, again, I've been out for 9 years now. I was away from it for so long, for over 6 years, and then it wasn't until I started the work that I do now, so 3-ish years ago, and I started talking to cops, and then when I started the podcast and people would come on and share their story about their transition, and person after person brought up how much better their mental health got when they were no longer on the job. I was like, "Well, that's interesting." The number of people who said they had suicidal ideations or attempted suicide, I mean, like, it made me cry because I was like, I had no idea this was a thing. We didn't talk about this. I cried because I was so proud of them for saying it and talking about it because until you can say it out loud and let somebody see you, you're going to keep suffering. It's just a fact. You do not have to get online or on a podcast like we're talking right now. You can just reach out to somebody and be willing to let them see you. That is the only way you are ever going to get better. I chose online. That's what I'm sticking with because it's what worked for me and it's allowing me to impact so many other people by just sharing my story. And what I want people to hear from sharing your story, it doesn't have to be that you're suicidal. It doesn't have to be that you've gone through this horrible traumatic thing. People need those mundane everyday stories that seem like they don't matter at all. They need to hear that. They need to see that people are just struggling through everyday random shit in life. It might not even be job related, but it's impacting the job, or the job is now impacting whatever that situation or that struggle is that they're going through. Every single story matters. But if nobody ever hears it, you're never going to know that it matters. You're never going to get that message or those 20 messages that are like, "Oh my God, it's like you're in my head. Thank you for finally saying what I haven't been able to put into words. Thank you for showing up and doing this for us. Thank you for" those are absolutely priceless. Absolutely priceless messages when you know that by you just showing up and whether you call it being brave or courageous, I don't see it that way, but when you hear that from people, you're like, "Oh, okay, maybe there is something to this. I don't have a big traumatic story that hit the news or the internet. Okay, so what? Most cops in America also don't have that story. The ones who have those big traumatic on the news scenarios are very few and far between. So your story matters and people need to hear it so they have permission to be like, well, if her story matters, maybe mine does too. And maybe you start just telling one person, but maybe you also make a post about it and then you're like, holy shit, apparently other people think the same way or feel the same way or felt alone. And that's what the debrief call every month does is every single time there's a new person, they're like, wow, I thought I was alone all these years, or I thought I was the only person who thought this or felt this, or wow, I really allowed myself to struggle for a lot of years thinking nobody understood. But here we are on this call, and 20 of you understand what the heck I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of the commonality we find with that, right? Is because I mean, you're totally right. It's like we're all gonna have some kind of scale of calls that we've gone on or seen, and we don't judge what's traumatic for who and what's not. But we can all say we have relationship problems, or we all have a family, or there's been times where we've been stressed out about money or our health, or all these things outside the job that really, like you said perfectly, are not necessarily directly a call, but if you're stressing out about money, you can guarantee that you're gonna be stressing out about money at work, and that and then you'll pick up more overtime or say yes or
which causes more strain on your relationship and your family. And it is a vicious cycle if you choose not to see it for what it is. And there's an exercise I love to have people do, whether they work with me or not. And it's just a life timeline to really show you one, that you're more than just a cop, but two, you have been through so much, most of it not job related at all, that you can share a story about and serve people in a different way, maybe a more positive way. Because when we're serving people at work, it's usually the worst day of their life, right? And that is really hard and becomes very taxing. If you're helping people just by sharing your story about making it through something else in your life, a divorce or a child that had ADHD and you didn't know how to control them at first and now you do, or they had eczema and you learned how to cure it naturally. There are so many things we have learned throughout our lives that everything we do does not have to be cop related, and you can talk about things that matter to you to help maintain some balance. And then something I learned maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, you can just Google Wheel of Life or you can download the Fit Method workbook I have. But here's a wheel and it's all the areas of your life. Color that puppy in and just see. Just see how balanced your wheel is because it's probably pretty lopsided. And then it asks you, okay, well, what are your maybe focus areas here? Which one of these do I need to work on first to help kind of start inflating this thing all the way around it? And then you start feeling a little more balanced. Again, it's not an overnight thing though. Which one needs the help? Which one needs the most help? What activities do I actually need to do to improve that spot and watch the other ones start to inflate with it? And it's a game changer to see it on paper and be like, oh, well, I thought I was really good in these areas, but turns out I am really bad in those areas. And these areas that I thought were really good or bad are actually better than I thought. And then you can actually take steps to move forward and get out of that stuck feeling so many of us find ourselves in.
yeah, absolutely. I do a very similar exercise with people too, that for life priorities, and it's amazing when you hear people say, "Well, my family's my priority," and I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Your relationships and your family are like the fifth thing down on the list. You're kind of fooling yourself here,
And
like
they
in
always
a
say,
social
look at your
reality check."
calendar and I'll show you your priorities. Most people do not have time for their family on their calendar, but they want to claim because it sounds good that their family is their priority.
Yeah.
Not often the
Your
case.
calendar and your checkbook,
Yep.
or I guess banking account
Yeah.
is what
Look
you're
at your bank statement.
saying. Yeah. Oh, well, man, I feel like we could talk for forever. There's just so much like, we barely scratched the surface on some of this stuff and didn't even get to dive into a lot of the other things, but I wanna make sure that we give you plenty of time to speak some about your podcast as well as the work that you're doing and help to get people connected with you because I feel like it's so valuable and part of what I try to do, get the voice out there that there are incredibly culturally competent people who are out there doing incredible work that can help you in some form or fashion or get you connected with the right resource. So give us the whole spiel about like how do people get in contact with you? Tell us about your podcast, all of the things.
For sure. So I am on social media practically every day. You can find me on Instagram at _Jess Flores. That is the page where you're going to see that past 8 years of shit show unfold. You just scroll all the way back if you want to, and you'll watch the evolution. Um, _next shift_ is where I do talk about the podcast or where I talk directly to cops about the lessons I've learned throughout this entire journey, things I wish I would have known when I was on the job, things like that. But LinkedIn is definitely the biggest platform for me. And it's just copied and pasted from Instagram. So go over there. That's where people are far more engaging. And the comments are where the gold is. Social media is not a bad thing. There are so many good people out there, and there is such a community of us who have moved on from law enforcement who are now reaching that hand backwards and willing to help. I will tell you, use judgment, use discernment, take what resonates and leave what doesn't from each and every single person. Nobody out here has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I know what worked for me. That's why I share my story and the things that that worked for me and what I've now created for others because I wish I would have had it. But use discernment. Not everybody's out here and has the right motivation behind why they're showing up. It's not my job to call them out. It's your job to look at it and be like, if the vibe's off, the vibe's off. It doesn't mean anything bad. At least they're trying to help their own people. But social media, if you are a current or former cop, you are more than welcome to come to debrief. That is my monthly call that I host. It's a Zoom call. It's a little different now that my husband's on days, and so now he's always home when these happen. Before, I could do 3-hour calls and it was no big deal, but this year, I'm going to try to keep them to no more than an hour and a half, but it's just an open forum. I go around the quote unquote room. Hey, welcome to debrief. Who are you? What brought you here? What's your connection to law enforcement? What do you need from this group? Or what do you want to share? And then what do you need from this group? Because we are horrible about articulating what we need from people. Well, I'm going to teach you how to articulate what you need from people by having you ask us, like, do you need something from us this month or not? It is usually the last Thursday of every month, just so guests have like an idea of what that would look like. Once you sign up, you're on my email list. So every week I send out a podcast update and you'll know when that next debrief is going to be. I have the Next Shift podcast. Everything stayed pretty branded. And it is very specific. It is for those who have transitioned out of law enforcement. Every once in a while, I tried really hard this season to give like therapists or counselors space to talk because the stigma's got to go away. Like this is all on us at this point. There should be no stigma about saying, "Hey, I could use some outside perspective on this, and how do I get better?" And the people I've had on are so good and provide so much information about the science behind the things going on in our bodies and our brains that we have no control over whatsoever. So we hopefully hear that and think, oh, okay, well, it's not me. Well, it is me, but it's not me. It's my body is responding this way and there is help for it. And so that has been the biggest blessing of this season, I think. And then the link in either bio, you're going to have access to all kinds of free resources, whether it's a transferable skills sheet that takes 25 skills. We have far more than that, but here's 25 main ones and how you can translate it or transfer it to something outside of law enforcement. The Fit Method workbook, staying with the fitness journey that I started with, face yourself, identify where you need to grow, and then take action. Without action, nothing is going to happen. Nothing's going to change. But it all starts with that wheel of life exercise that can be really eye opening. And then it's just a bunch of different exercises, but also like, do you have goals? Here's a few different ways you could look at goals. Here is a habit tracker type of situation. Tools for you to use to breach whatever it is you say you're wanting to get in this life. But there's all kinds of different resources in there. And then I'm always a message away. I love to talk clearly, and I love to have those messages and those heart to hearts, but also be that tough love, not suck it up, buttercup, but kind of suck it up, buttercup. You have to make the change here. You have to decide that you've had enough of whatever this is and make the change. I do offer shift sessions, I like to call them that, where it's a clarity call basically. You book a call because you're like, dude, I'm so done feeling stuck and I don't even know what direction is up or where I need to go. Sometimes all you need is the mirror. You just need me to hold a mirror up to you and say, like, this is what I'm hearing you say. Is this what you mean? Oftentimes it's not at all what the person means. It's like, oh, well, there's our first breakthrough in clarity. Cool. Now we can articulate what is actually going on. Okay, now we know that. How do we face it? How do we take action from here? I'm not coming up with your plan. You're coming up with your plan with me to get you from here to here. The goal of that call is to take you from lost, stuck, confused, and chaotic feeling to clarity and confidence that you can go do whatever you need to do to move forward.
Nice. Awesome. I love it all. It's all just so great to support you and yeah, to keep driving your mission forward and specifically giving that voice out there for law enforcement because yeah, they have a very special place in my heart for sure and getting to do some work specifically with them. So yeah, check out Jess's podcast. Tap into her resources. There's no excuse not to. You are fully informed at this point. Well, you are, of course, welcome back on the show absolutely anytime, and we can dive into so many other fun topics to discuss. Thank you again for taking the time to be on the show, and I know people are going to walk away with an incredible amount of perspective and information and just really, really valuable conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was definitely an honor, and I'll come back anytime you want me.
Thank you to everyone who sat in with this conversation today. I know that you are walking away with so much valuable information. Jess is truly incredible, and we were so honored to have her here on the show. We are also so honored that you take the time to sit around the fire with us. And we would love any and all of your feedback. Share some comments if you can resonate with Jess's story at all. Maybe you've gone through the leaving/retirement process and things were kind of rocky for you. Share any of your insights because it really does help one another. This experience of commonality is so important. So please dive into the comments. We are here for you. And like always, we appreciate your support. Make sure that you get on to like us, subscribe, check out our YouTube page where you can catch all of these episodes and so much more in video. Make sure you get on YouTube, like, subscribe, follow us there. Your support truly is incredibly impactful. All right, you know the drill. Go out there, have an amazing day. You are loved, you are special. We are here for you, and we cannot wait to sit around the fire with you very soon.